Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good to see everyone here. Paul Trani, going to dive into Photoshop Masterclass, blending illustration with photography. So basically, if you're a Creative Cloud member, like using all the tools at your disposal to create cool work and have it all work together is the goal. So thanks so much for joining me. Feel free to chime in. It's good to be here, by the way. Can I just say that? It's good to be here. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day. Aria Wagner, good to have you. Good morning. It's beautiful 10:30 a.m. here in Colorado, where we're still dealing with snow that we got like a week and a half ago. So what's up with that? So good to see you, Paco, as well. Sorry I missed the holiday party last night, darn it. But that happens. I will see you. I'll be in the office soon enough, though. Let's kind of dive in and kind of click through my goals and what I'm going to cover today. And let's have a conversation with graphics, shall we? That's what we're going to do. So blending illustration with photography is what I'm going to work on. So I'm going to create some things, some illustrations like in Illustrator. I'm going to use Fresco. I'm even going to create some graphics in Dimension as well, which I think will be really fun. Bringing that all together in Photoshop with some photography, which will be fun. Do some color matching, right? Since we're bringing these different graphics together, how do you make them match according to color, but also texture? And kind of like resolution as well, and just some tips for design consistency. Good evening, George from Germany. Fantastic. Very cool. So let's kind of click over and show you a couple things real fast. Hilda, good to have you. Hello, Lynn. Jordan Crawford in the house. Awesome. I always like to hear where people are from. So thank you, Anna Davis Court, for the Photoshop tips. Get involved in those daily creative challenges as well. Fantastic. So here's just like some fun, crazy stuff. And I really just do this to hopefully like inspire you to make stuff. So go out onto, not now, do it later. But check out Behance and kind of get inspired on what's out on Behance or Pinterest or whatever else. Here's just a couple works of kind of what I'm talking about. Even if we take this first one, this middle one here, you can see these are actually painted. I painted these leaves, and honestly, I only painted one of them, but I ended up duplicating these flowers and leaves that I painted in Fresco, and then bringing that and combining that together with a photo in Photoshop. So this is just one example, combining sort of like painting and artwork with photography that you see here. So that's kind of what we're looking for. I hear ya, Aria. Snow never melts in Wisconsin. By the way, I get that. In Wisconsin, same thing with like Minneapolis, like Minnesota, same issue. Snow never melts. In Denver, it actually does. So it's very bizarre that we've had this snow for a little bit. Here's another one just doing some fun in composites as well, bringing this stuff together. This was actually originally, again, a painting that I combined with some nice colors and things. So that's kind of cool. And then here's a fun one as well. We'll probably work on something like this, despite the blood, because that's the problem with this, Lynn. As you can see right here, that looks like blood. That's not gonna work. And what I was trying to do is just like, show like kind of creativity kind of being generated from your hand. So that's the idea of what we're working on. So yeah, hopefully you're having a good day. It is. Boy, it's Friday. This is awesome. All right. So let's dive into this. Couple different things. I mentioned Fresco. I mentioned Illustrator, like when to use what tool. I think that becomes very important as well. So we can do some of this and do some fun splats. In fact, let's just kind of start off with this one right here. Clicking over here, a little shortcut to do that. Here we have this hand. And let's just go ahead and make a new file. And let's dive into this, shall we? Right in here, we can see this. Again, select that. Hold down the Option key. So a lot of times you're selecting the background. To answer your question, Aria, I could show you everything that I painted, by the way. So usually it's the things that are busting out of the person or the hand. That's the painted stuff, because that's like stuff that you created is kind of coming out of the hand. So that's the idea here. Okay, so a lot of times what you do when you're selecting something, you select the background first and you turn that into a mask. And all you need to do is just do that, of course. Go to your layers panel, and if you hold down the option key like I'm doing right now, I'm just holding down the option key and then click right here on the mask right there, and it will automatically make whatever you have selected, that will be masked out. Okay, so hold on that option key. You're good to go. Let's move on. Let's move on. I could do a couple quick things. In fact, I'm pretty confident. People are always like, never delete pixels. Guess what? I'm not gonna need this gray. I know it for a fact. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and apply that layer mask. Right? It's that easy, right? It's fine. Hand. I'm going to show you some tips, by the way, Akansha. I'm sorry, I can't say your name too well. Using the layers panel. I want to get into some pro tips, because what happens with a lot of these composites, and sorry, these are JPEGs, but even this one right here, is you end up with a lot of layers. I have 87 layers. That's part of this. You can see right down here. So how can you manage all these layers and bounce around them? So I think you're going to find that hugely beneficial as I start to dive into this, because what am I going to do? I'm going to start chopping this up, and guess what? I'm just going to use the lasso tool and my mouse. That's all I literally use. I'll jump in here, draw zoop like that. Guess what? I'll cut it, Command X, Shift Command V will paste it back into place, and then we have that first part right there, right? And we can start to separate that out like I'm going to do right now. Separating that out. We'll do a couple other parts really fast. I usually will do these in order, like this piece right here. Zoop. Cut it, paste it. There's the next piece. And let's do this finger right up here. Okay. Just going to cut this out really fast. Pasting in place. Cutting it out right, maybe right here. There we go. Cut it, paste it in place. Okay, and I can start separating these out. But sometimes you don't know what's what. Let me just go ahead and do this really fast. Let me just go back to panel options really fast and just kind of reset this. This is typically how your Photoshop might look, right? Quite frankly, I can't tell. Since I didn't name these, I can't tell. Okay, I'll just call you at. Perfect. I can't tell what's what over here, right? It's hard to tell. So layers panel, what you want to do is you could go to this flyout menu, go down to panel options, right? Selecting panel options, and right in here, this is where the magic happens. Change this to layer bounds. Rather than seeing the entire document over here, change that to layer bounds. Two other things that I do is I turn off expand new effects, because I just want to keep it condensed. And then I'm like, never add the word copy to any copied layers. Okay, so turn that off as well, so it remains consistent. Now watch my layers panel over here, click OK. Oh, there we go. I can actually see those fingers. I'm still not sure what is what. I can hold down the option key and click, and it zooms right to that object, right to this one, right to this part, right to this part, right to this part. All I'm doing is holding down the option key. Yes, at basically do Shift Control V. Oh shit, sorry. It's usually, sorry, Command. I'm horrible. Command C, Command V, or Command X is what I use to cut. And then I hold down the Shift key, and that will paste it in place. So that's the goal. And again, all I'm doing right now is holding down the Option key. I can jump around to those specific objects. I can click on the background to zoom back out, or Command 0, right? And we can get back out here like so. Another thing I can do is I can actually hold down the Option key, and I can click on the eyeball. When I do that, boop. Oh, it shows me exactly what it is. Another thing I used to do a lot is if you hold down the Command key and click on that layer, it will actually select. That's how I used to be able to tell. It would actually put the marching ants around the object, right? So holding down the Command key, clicking, clicking, and I used to just look for the marching ants, which was still tough to tell. All right, so that's navigating around your file. Let's just add some fun to this really fast. I want to move through this quickly because I think it's fun watching graphics come together. You know, let's create a new layer. Let's hit P for the pen tool. We're going to make sure this is a shape, and the fill is set to pink, hot pink. There is no stroke. And we'll come in here, and we'll just start drawing right here. We're going to have creativity coming out of this person's fingertips, right? And the creative stuff that's going to come out is going to be the illustrations and everything. So there's one shape. See right there? We can do this other one right over here. Click. You get the idea. I'm going to do this really fast. I don't know how satisfying it is watching people do this, things that you might already know how to do. And I think this is the case for it. Right? Another thing I could do is I could hold down the Command key if I want to select this layer for this specific object. Hold down the Command key and then click. And then it highlights that layer, right? And then I can move it over, right? I can hold down Command key, click. There's that one. Kind of move that out like so, like so. You get the idea. P for pen tool happens to be the same for Illustrator as well. Come over here. Boop, boop. The Option key is the Alt key on Windows. Thank you for bringing that up, and I'm sorry I did not mention that earlier. It's the Alt key. So think of it this way, like there's really no harm that's going to happen if you hit the Option key. If you want something to do, if you're doing a move, and you want something, maybe the reverse of it or something like it, the Option key is there to help you with that. So I usually, if I'm like, oh, I wish I was able to create the inverse of this mask, well, hold down the Option key and we'll create the inverse of that mask, right? Move that down like that. In fact, I can put everything back there like that. And then add a little bit of gradient. B for brush. Zoop. I'm going to make this really fast because I want to get into some of the tools. I always do that. Okay, so I got asked this. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mandy Blanton. Did everybody get that? When you are selecting objects, she's talking about object select right up here, the auto select. Okay, so oftentimes this will be unchecked for most people, right? But when I hold down the Command key, it toggles that on and off. So that's, you got it, Gaston. You can use auto select by holding down the Control or the Command key is what I, at least on Mac, it's the Command key and then clicking. So fantastic. I'm glad we're all on the same page. I'm getting a bunch of smart people here and I love it. Brush. Painting that in a little bit. Clipping mask, like so. You get the idea. Let's try this one over here. Why not? I'm going to move through this really fast. Brush, just clicking a couple times. Layer. This is another one, a clipping mask. You're probably using this. Gaston, you probably know this one. If you roll over between two layers, and I'm saying, hey, you know what? For this burst, this shadow that I want to add, I just want to actually apply it to this shape. So I'm going to make it a clipping mask right over here. Hold down the Option key when you roll over between those two layers and then click. It'll make it a layer mask. And you see the difference right there. Okay. All right, clipping mask. That looks good. We're chopping off this hand. It's looking grotesque. What is wrong with me? Just kidding. There are different ways of doing this. Happy to hear any way you might think of doing this. I made these shape layers, by the way, just to make it easy to change the color later on, because I'm not committed to this hot pink. I might want to change it. In fact, I'll shift this one more to the red, like that. Maybe this one down here. Again, Command click will auto select it. Double click on that shape layer. Let's shift this one more to the yellow, right? Kind of like that. Maybe an orange, like so. Click OK. You get the idea. Okay, so out of this person's magical fingers, we're going to have some graphics come out. Hopefully that works for you, Bojana. Hello there. Thanks for joining me on this fine Friday. I want you to use all the tools at your disposal, quite frankly. I'm never going to be the type of person that's like, I only use Photoshop because that's the only tool I know how to use, right? I'm going to use the best tool for the job. And I'm going to show you some different tools to do that with. Right now I'm in Illustrator because I'm thinking in Illustrator what I can do is, let's just go ahead and, I want to create some random sort of colors and splats and things kind of coming out of fingers there. So we have our brushes panel, right? So our brushes panel in Illustrator is filled with a bunch of crazy stuff. Even if you go right in here, and I get it, this is a Photoshop Masterclass. You're going to master Photoshop, and you're going to use other tools when they're better for you, for the job. But in here, I can go into image brushes, decorative brushes. You get the idea. Here's artistics. I can get an artistic paint brush, and here's some paint brushes right in here that I can consider using. Okay, so I'll click on one of these. It adds it to my current library. N for pencil. I'm going to just use my pencil. I have it set to smooth. Click OK, draw, and there it is. Let's crank up the size some. There's that particular brush. And I have a number of other splats and things that I can use. So this sort of stuff is what I'm looking for. Maybe not at that size, but I want to size it down because actually I want to kind of play with the color a little bit very easily and have similar strokes. So I can have the second stroke and I can play with the width profile, right? I can curve that one out like that. Drawing that, changing the color of it to something else. You get the idea. Uruguay is in the house. How you doing? I have never been to Paraguay or Uruguay, and I'm wondering if being from Uruguay, if you're sick of people always rolling Paraguay in with Uruguay. Just kind of curious, right? So I can create some fun shapes right in here, selecting all those. Let's copy them. Let's bring them into Photoshop. Here we are, pasting them in as smart objects. If you want to, that's what I'm going to do. Fantastic. Now we have some fun tapeworms coming out of the person's fingers. Just kidding. In this case, honestly, I would probably rasterize this. I'm going to rasterize this layer. I'm going to make it easy on me. I'm going to maybe cut out some of these if I want to, right? Cutting out this one. Having it come out of that part of the finger right there. And this one over here. Rotating that around. Maybe that's going to be coming out of there. You get the idea. It needs some shading as well. And this is just one look that I could potentially go with. It's kind of fun. I'm not sure if I like it, to be honest with you, but I wanted to show you how you can, of course, use Illustrator and get all these different strokes right in here. So I can select this one. Yeah, I kind of like the shape of it. Let's go with this one right here. That one's even cooler. Guess what? I want to do that for all of them. Click, and now they're all that different shade. Check this out. You ready for something even cooler? I just love showing off things that'll hopefully help you work faster. Let's move the brushes over here. I was kind of picking colors at random from my swatches panel, right? Well, check this out. I can select all these objects and I could use, this is really fun. I show this all the time. In Illustrator, I actually want to pick between, I want to pull this color, this orange, this blue. So those are my three colors. We'll get a yellow and an orange, but I've picked 4 colors and I want these colors to randomly change these items randomly. Go to File, Scripts, and this is one you should search for. It's out on the internets, but basically you can go down to Random Swatches Fill. So I click right here, boop. Oh. It would do that, wouldn't it? It does Random Swatches Fill. Let's flip it. Wait for it. Let me actually change this to one color. These are all going to be black. I'm going to select a series of colors, scripts, random swatches fill. Actually just fills the... Yeah, that's the problem with it. I thought it was going to be really cool. It only does it to the fill color and not to the stroke. So anyways, roll it back, taking this content, bringing it into Photoshop. Questions? Are you using these as smart objects? I was initially pasting them in as a smart object. Quite frankly, if you want to be really detail oriented, you could select them one at a time, copy this, right? Copying this splat or this curl, pasting in as a smart object, and now this is an Illustrator file that lives inside of this Photoshop file, right? So there's this one. This happens to be a vector smart object, as we can see right there. Not bad, not bad. Let's go on to this other one. I want to kind of move on to some other fun things as I start to add another graphic. Shrinking that down. Flipping it, rotating it. Kind of like that. All right, so if I want to edit this at any time, I can just double click. Of course, it's going to open it up in Illustrator. I can change the color, change the shape, all that fun stuff, stretch it out, make it longer is all I'll do. Saving it, closing it, you get the idea. Is there harm in expanding your strokes to shapes so that you can use the script? Ah, great call, Mandy. That's very smart. That's what I could have done. The harm would be you can't edit it as easily later on. So that's the harm, right? Because right now I could just pick any other stroke, and this is the power of Illustrator, being able to change these. In fact, you can get really fun with a lot of these because I have a bunch of different brushes that I've made, you know, right in here. We have leaves. If we wanted to have these leaves kind of come out of her fingers, we could do that as well. Taking that, this happens to be a brush, right? Bringing it into Photoshop, pasting it, seeing if that works for this particular. This could potentially work as well. Right, you got it. Okay, so let's move on. That's actually kind of fun. I'm into it. Yeah, thank you. Welcome, Jean Robley from Mauritius Island. Where is Mauritius Island? I do not know. I'm into this, by the way. I'm into it. I'm going to use it again right over here. Let's move on because I'm actually showing you some of the pre-built stuff that is in Illustrator and some of the stuff that I've made as well. But it's all in your brushes library. We'd use that where appropriate. And now we have these. This is kind of fun. I'm kind of into this, like illustrations kind of coming out of the person's fingers. Anissa, good to have you. Good morning. Cheers. Cool. Mandy, I'm into it. It's good having Mandy here. All right. Yeah, so that's, yeah, instead of like a different take on somebody like having a green thumb, you know, it's like they have sort of green fingers or something. Anyways, duplicating that, flipping it. That's all you need to do. Flip vertical, make it look a little bit different, a little bit smaller. Nobody's going to be able to tell that those are basically the same shapes, basically. Okay. I'm going to add, I feel like adding something to the background real fast. I'm playing with this a little bit. I don't know. I think the background I'm going to have to work on. I'm not 100% sure what I want. I could add a gradient, by the way. So the new gradient fill I have right here. So check this out. This is what I can do. With the latest version of Photoshop, I can go down to right here, gradients, opening this up. And this is what I did. So the latest version of Photoshop has gradients, it has shapes, it has, of course, swatches, and it has styles that are all like first-class citizens, right? And I actually took a lot of those colors, by the way, and I just got rid of all the folders. Like, I don't look, when I'm designing, I don't use things according to their name. I don't look for the word green. I'd rather see the color green. So I dumped them all in here, right? And now I can come in and just take a look at each one of these and see which one will work. As I just kind of click around, I'm actually looking more at the illustration than I am even at the, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna go with this one. The soft pink, kind of like that. Let's go with that for now. All right, cool. We have some of this coming out of our fingers. That's Illustrator. I'm gonna go ahead and quit Illustrator because we do not need it anymore. And I actually want to kind of do my own painting, and I'm gonna use Fresco, right? Yes, Mandy, thank you. You hate looking through all the folders. I'm gonna like send that feedback back to the team, right? Because I think that's an issue. All right, so this is one take. I'm gonna take these, selecting all those layers by command clicking from this bottom to the top, command G, group it. This will be Illustrator. Maybe you like that look, maybe you don't, I don't know. Let's just dump that in there too. Why not? Here's the Illustrator look. Let's do another take, right? We're just experimenting right now. In this case, I want to paint my own. So I'm going to use Fresco. Adobe Fresco, if you're not familiar, is really a natural way to draw and paint. Oh, thank you. Tim did the same thing. I think everybody's going to be doing that. By the way, I think I did the same thing with the shapes panel. So check this out. Did I? Okay, so this is what I did. Remember, there were so many folders. Why? I don't even know the difference between all the trees. I dumped all the trees in one folder. Tim, did you do that as well? This should just be nature. Should be people, landmarks, animals. Right? I could see use for animals. This stuff actually might be kind of fun to use. I've never used this sports equipment in my life. I don't know why. What I will use are these legacy shapes, right? This is the sort of stuff that I could see myself using, right? So right in here, let's kind of nest it to the side. And then I will get into Fresco, I promise. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Snap. There we go. Snap to the side. Right. Probably use some arrows right in here. That's probably what I would do. And some icons kind of popping out. What other basic shapes do we have? Right in here. Let's grab this basic shape, right? Boom, boom. You get the idea. Get a heart. Why not? Whatever. All right. I have a better idea than just doing this that I'm going to show you in a second, but I'll group this and this will be our shapes. But let's use the best tool for the job because I want to do some of my own painting rather than using some of these lines that are already made. And I'm going to use Fresco for that. Opening up Fresco. You can see it right here. Let's go full screen with this. Right? Oh, Mandy, you had a tree project earlier this week in the Daily Creative Challenge. Yep. Oh yeah. There are a ton of trees in there. Right in here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to draw. I actually use the lasso tool to draw a lot. So I can just kind of draw out like that. Draw again, like these kind of like splats. I think it would be kind of fun. Oops. Let's undo that. Close that lasso. Undo that one. Let's do a shorter little. There we go. So we have just using the lasso tool. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to create a mask. Boom. There's my mask layer, right? And now I can start painting. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paint with the watercolor wash soft, right? Let's get some of that soft color in there like so, right? Actually, let's undo that. Because I want it to be kind of like purple. Start down here with a purple, and then get lighter, and then end up with, like, I don't know, an orange or a yellow kind of out here. Ooh, not that muddy though. We want to go with bright colors. Make it pop, right? Kind of like that. That's what I'm going for. Right, and this is what's fun about Fresco. Are these brushes, these super nice watercolor brushes. I'm going to give them some volume, just kind of painting around the edges a little bit. Not going to be too exact, but they do need to have some depth. Okay, like so. In fact, what I can do is I can come in here, add a new, let's undo that a couple times. Take this layer, we're going to duplicate it. On this second layer, I can add some shading. So let's go even darker than those two. Let's go with a dark purple. Let's crank it down, and let's give it some depth. So one reason why I actually like end up duplicating layers is because the watercolor brushes actually are like watercolor. If you're not really layering on a lot of that color, you're going to be seeing some of the paper through the layer. So again, just some fun splats right there. And that is done. But let's go beyond that too, because chances are, let's group these two. Put this one on top. There we are. Chances are you can use some of the baked in brushes, and we can go beyond these fun watercolors, because right in here we saw what Illustrator had in mind. Well, let's go in here to effects. Let's take this leafy line. Oh yeah, leafy line. That's right. There's our leafy line. Pretty cool. In fact, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to crank up the size of this. This needs, what's the largest size? It's like, it'll do 8,000 pixels or something. We'll do like 5,000. All right, I just need more room. There we go. Nice and big, because we're going to create all these fun colors right in here. And let's do this really fast. Boom. Okay, and we're back. Picking a green color, using the leafy line, and just adding, oops. Whoop. Just drawing this out like so. Whoop. There we have it. Right? Some fun leafy lines. Let's see what else we have in here, because we have another leafy line, which is a little bit different. Ever so slightly. Let's crank this up in size a little bit. There we go. Let's do something like that. We can have a whole layer that's just leafy lines that we're going to bring in. Undo, make this larger. Apologies. Perfect. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. How's everybody doing? Gene Robley, I have no idea what you're talking about. We have some more foliage that we could work on. Not crazy about that. We have some clouds that we could roll in. That might work. We'll do a little bit of blue. We'll crank this up even more. Here's just some nice clouds. Let's throw in some pink clouds as well. Right? Let's crank this color up, adding a new layer. So you're kind of building a whole folder. Yeah, watch this whole stream later. It's your homework, okay? But you're building up this whole library just in one file of a bunch of textures that you can composite in Photoshop. Coming down here, what else do we have? Some more spatters. That's what made it look like blood in the version you saw earlier. It was a little intense, but we could throw a little bit of that in there. There we go. By the way, you can, just like you can in Photoshop, you can use, you can load up additional brushes. So right down here, hit plus, get more brushes or import from files. So get more brushes, you're going to load this up. It's going to go out to, you do have to sign in, but once you do, you'll have access to a bunch of brushes that you can use. From there, you can access them. In fact, I have a lot of them loaded right in here in miscellaneous, right? So now I can say, hey, you know what, let's do some fun things with flowers. Let's change this color. Let's go to a new layer. Here's some fun flowers as well. There we go, there we go, there we go. Cool, 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 cool. Moving on. Right in here, I know I have a cool leaf brush if I could only find it. And that's your biggest problem is, ooh. That is somebody's hand. Yeah, that's not quite what I'm going for. Here it is. Boom, there it is. Love this brush. I get it. I could actually make this in Photoshop as well. But just since I'm already in Fresco, there's some leaves that I can work with for this design. Cool, cool, cool. Done and done. We have these splats. We have these splats. We have a lot going on here. I'm just going to save this. It's called splats. We're going to use those back in Photoshop right now. Okay. So that was Adobe Fresco. Thank you for asking. Cool. So by the way, I loaded up so many brushes. It's just like insane how many are in there. But the cool thing is this file, by the way, is going to be available to me. This is a cloud document. It's going to be available to me in Photoshop. So as I go right over here in Photoshop, there we have splats. It does have to update. So we'll wait for that to update. But while that's updating, I'll just go ahead and update or open this file, right? Same concept, right? We have a number of these splats that were really fun to make with the live brushes. And now I could use these graphics in here. So I'll take two of these. Let's just merge these two layers, drop it over. Boop, there it is. Grabbing these two just for fun. Bringing that over as well. Closing that. Yes, the new Photoshop is amazing, by the way. Let's do this really fast. Wait for it. Wait for it. There we are. We're using this different hand that has more, it's kind of more of a finished version that just has the hand chopped up a little bit more. Remember, we want creativity kind of coming out of this person's fingers. All right. There we are. Gorgeous. These splats again, made in Fresco. We just kind of had fun painting, and now I can dive in and start to shrink these down for one. They need to be a little smaller, right? Creativity kind of coming out of her fingertips. It's crazy. What? Let's take a little smudge. I'll use the smudge brush right over here. Let's change this from that crazy setting that I was using earlier. Take down the strength, right? And smudge it a little, right? We want to just give it some more motion and make it look like it is kind of flying out of her fingers like that. Fantastic. All right, Amira, how's everyone doing? Talk to me. I want to know what's going on in your life. If you're getting involved with the daily creative challenges, I'm here to push you creatively using Photoshop and honestly other tools, right? There we go. We have all these fun splats I can kind of drop in using Command key click, Command key click again, putting that one maybe behind like so, clicking on this one, shrinking this one down, adjusting the color, Command U. There we go. And I get it, by the way. So I've done two things. I've actually deleted pixels and I've actually applied a hue and saturation directly to the object as well. Okay. Just like truth be told, Command U, that'll just bring this up. That means it's going to apply it directly. A lot of people are like, oh no, don't do that. You always have to make sure that that you can edit it later on and you never want to change the pixels, right? Well, in all honesty, when you know kind of what you're doing and you know you can always change it back, it's not a big deal. I'm aiming for simplicity right now in my layers panel. That's a lot of the reason why I won't add a lot of adjustment layers and do things directly on the layers, because I just don't want it to get a little too crazy, right? So we just want to get a little pop right there. So anyways, don't hate me because I just, I'm making these edits directly on the layers. Cool. Got it. I'm pretty at ease with shortcuts, but there's honestly some I don't know. Sometimes I end up mashing a lot of the keys together to get it right? So I don't always... I'd like to think I know most shortcuts. All depends on what you're doing. And what you're going to want to do, Gene, is you're going to want to build in your own shortcuts as well. So, of course, down here, you know how you can obviously edit your own keyboard shortcuts. If you find yourself doing something a lot, well, then make a shortcut for it. Because actually what I end up using a lot is, right in here, Puppet Warp. I use Puppet Warp a lot. But it's a pain to go clear up here and then clear down here. So what I do is I just, like for this one, I am not crazy about this shape right now. With that layer selected, I have this shortcut. This is what I do for my shortcuts. Look at it. I just mash all the keys together. So it's all three keys in a row and then a letter, because I know all three keys, they're not taken. When you use Control, Option, and Command on a Mac, those three keys aren't taken by another shortcut. And then I do the first letter. So mash those three keys together. That's my Paul's shortcut code. And then hit P for Puppet Warp. And that's all I have to remember, right? So what do I do? Go over here, mash together, boom, Puppet Warp. Boom, boom, boom. Stretch it out. This part, maybe adjust this like that, right? So that's what I'll typically do. Hit Enter like so. Maybe angle this up like that. Another one I use a lot is Control, Option, Command. Again, mash all three keys together and hit T to tile all of them. Yeah, that's what I do, Cecilia. I just mash them together. So that's what I do. Mash all the keys together, T for tile, and then R to consolidate it back. And there we have it. Clicking there, shortcut key, like I'm doing right now, to fix this one, to stretch it out a little bit more as well, and give it just some more life is what it needs for this one right here. And again, just using Puppet Warp. That one's okay. I don't know if I'm crazy about it. This one's just too thick. That's the problem. It just needs, this is too thick. There we go. Cool, cool. We got it. We got it. We got some motion. Again, File, Open. Let's go back to our splat file. Here's the one we just made. Let's open this up. Again, all this stuff was already put together for us. Mash a bunch of keys together. Locate, I don't know, these fun vines. Actually, let's just grab all this fun stuff and bring it over like that. There we go. We have lots of leaves and fun stuff happening now. Shrinking this down. And taking a look. All right. Ooh, what a great idea. Strings. Yeah, I love the idea of something kind of wrapping around her wrist. I think that would be really awesome. That's absolutely a great idea. We could do that a couple different ways, right? Couple different ways. I'm just kind of thinking through it right now. Let's just do that with one of these vines. That's what we're going to do really fast. We're going to grab one of these. Take this. And we can curl it around. Super easy to do, because what are we going to do? We're going to use Puppet Warp again. This is a little broken up. Yeah, that's a little too broken up. Going back out here. You ready? Wait for it. We have all these shapes. Going into nature. So in here, this is all that stuff that I've actually painted in Fresco. So you can see this is one that's just, you know, I didn't create it. It's actually a brush. But some of these in here, like these are the ones that I've actually painted. So I can grab these leaves, bring them in, right? So I can use these leaves instead and kind of wrap that around her wrist if I want to. That's not a bad one. Come on, where is it? I could swear I have it better. There's this one. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's another one, bringing this in. I want to get into, like my agenda shows, is getting into color correction, right? Definitely. I've kind of been doing that as we go along. First off, you can see this is way too bright for this branch, right? It's already too bright. Command U, take that saturation down just a touch to get it kind of in the same ballpark. Since I don't expand effects, look, it applies that hue and saturation as that smart filter on that object, and it didn't expand it because I had that set up earlier in my layers flyout menu. But with this is kind of more like it. Let's just go ahead and puppet warp this baby. Click, click, click. You get the idea. Oh, man, it's broken. That's okay. Moving this over. By the way, you can adjust the rotation of anything that you puppet warp. With this one selected, I can go up here and I can auto rotate this. I can say negative 45 degrees. Did it do it? Zoom out. Ah, I hit enter. There we go. But I think I'll take this, move this up here like so. You get the idea. Wrapping it around her wrist. Let's move on to some other things as well. We could do a caterpillar. We could do all sorts of fun stuff, right? We want to wrap this around her hand. What are we going to do? We're going to go down here to the hand. Command click. That's going to select all the pixels on that layer, right? That's what I want. If I hold down the shift, wait for it. If I hold down command and then the shift key is going to add. Because right now I need to add some of these other parts. Scrolling down, I don't know which one is her wrist. Ah, right here. There we go, we've added her wrist. Scrolling down a little bit further, click. I can add the rest right in here. All right, with that done, go to the branch. Yeah, just bear with me. Boom, boom. Select all this. Bring it back. There we go. All right, good enough for now, right? Thanks, Howard. it's a little crazy now because what I've been doing, Howard, just kind of recap, is kind of combining illustration styles with photography and creating some cool looks, by the way. And what we were doing is we're trying to make it look like kind of creativity coming out of her fingers. The issue that's happening right now is there's a mix of styles, and you're gonna have to pick a lane and stay in it. If you start mixing too many styles, it's honestly not going to look good unless you put like 50 in there. And then the consistency is the fact that it's so random. So think of a collage. Yeah, that works because everything is random. But anytime I'm mixing just a couple of these, it's not quite working. It's like, well, this is painted. This is actually a photo that got turned into a brush that got brought into Photoshop. So that's kind of crazy. This was painted, but has a more cartoony look. So that's kind of the issue I'm dealing with right now. And honestly, what I would do is I'd come in here and I'd have to remove those. Again, talking about Photoshop shortcuts, I can always command click to select that layer. There it is, right? And turn that off. So we'll turn off that one. And see what else we have going on here. I have some more splats. These are the fun clouds that I was working with as well. But what I want to do is I always want to convert things to a smart object if I'm unsure whether I want it larger or smaller. So I'll convert to smart object, right? Command T, shrink it down, right? And we can kind of do something with that kind of behind her hand. Here's some more clouds. I don't know if these clouds are really working. Because you know what? They don't have any motion to them. They're just kind of sitting there, right? While these other elements kind of have some dynamic movement to them, like these splats right here. We can find those as well. I'm just holding down, command key, clicking, and there it is. Okay, so again, that toggles the auto select. And when you roll over that object as well, that's when you'll get this outline for it, right? Yeah, the key thing is you want to do things with a purpose. Like, tell me why you used X style, right? You gotta be able to have an answer for that, right? You can mix as many styles as you want. You can have a dumpster fire if you're doing it for a reason, right? That's the big thing. Usually designers do things for a reason, even though even their intuition. Let's just paste this in here. Their intuition kind of leads them to do something for a reason. Even if they think it's random, they're probably doing it based on their design intuition. All right. I'm not sure this wrapping is really working around the wrist. Let's move on to something else. We're going to go into style number 3 now. You ready for this? Eduardo, hello world. Hello to you from Brazil. Let's go into dimension. Yeah, what do I got in here? And did this render? Check this out. Again, using illustration styles and just some fun styles. I'm actually thinking of the Velvet Spectrum is somebody you can look up. Luke Choice, he's amazing, does lots of 3D work and has a bright, playful style. And that's kind of how my that's kind of how some of my work has kind of progressed to. But seriously, just use Dimension. Dimension also has a lot of stock assets that you could use. So just grabbing some of these, an octahedron. I think I already used one. Tetrahedron, let's drop one in there just to give you an idea. And again, this is a Photoshop Masterclass. And I get it. Photoshop actually does have 3D capabilities as well. So we can get into that. But right now I'm just going to drop this in. This shape just for fun. And we'll add a color to it. When you're using a lot of these, of course you can modify them. So notice how there's not a rainbow of colors. Well, guess what? You just add the plastic, right? Like I'm doing now. Adding it right down here. Here it is. And then for that tetrahedron, you can change the color to anything that you want. This is actually a new addition as well, just saving your color history, which is awfully nice. We'll go with, an orange. There we have it, right? So just a couple elements just for fun. They're all part of the same scene, and they can be elements dancing out of that person's hand. Also keep in mind when I select the scene, I have this really large. So it's 5,000 by 5,000 pixels, right? And then I have all my elements in this one scene. So let's see. Fit to canvas. It's actually pretty large. From there, we can hit render, primitives 2, render it out. Wait for it. Let's go to my desktop. There it is. Sweet. Bring that in. Oh, yeah. What is everybody doing this weekend? And can I live vicariously through you, please? All right, so you see right here, we've rendered this out. You're going to get all those shapes on there, not on their own layers, but everything's on one layer, the background separate, and we have these elements that we can work with, right? We can not only use that, but we could also use the depth information and some of those object selection masks if we need to. But all I'm doing is just going to copy this and go to my project. Pasting it in. And now we have some fun shapes kind of dancing around her hand. Wait for it. Now I get it. I use this in Dimension. I'm not crazy about this phone. Probably take out this phone right here. It's just, again, back to styles. It kind of doesn't work overall. But these other elements do. One issue with some of this is like, this is obviously shiny. It's actually not reflecting the hand or anything, right? So that's actually something I'm going to have to fix. There's a couple different ways you could do that. All right, so Gina is singing in a concert tomorrow. Look at you, Gina. You're so fancy. You're just so cool, right? There's the banana. Howard's doing nothing. Yeah, right. Howard, you were moving, and I want to hear all about it. I want to hear the latest, my friend. Yeah, just tell me all your personal stuff on this live stream. Just kidding. There it is. We'll take this. We're going to rotate it here in a second. It's actually pretty large, but we could rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. Is it possible to create your own object in Dimension? No, you cannot. Can you in Photoshop? Do we like this? Do you like it this way? Maybe I'll bring it back. I'm kind of getting used to it being like this. So we'll just like have it like this for now. The answer is no. To your question, the answer is no, but hold on. Let me just group this stuff. You can make your own shapes in Photoshop. Oh, shoot. I'm almost up on time. I would say this looks pretty good, guys. Hopefully you like it. Thanks for hanging out with me. Gosh, time flew by, and this is where it's at. I'm going to tighten it up a little bit more, and then I'm going to post it to Instagram, PTRANI. But we've done a great job because we now have this style. We have about 3 different styles in here, and we've used lots of different methods for combining illustration with photography. The last thing I would do is, work with lookup tables. I would go ahead and add color consistency using lookup tables and adjustment layers, right? And that's what I did here. You can kind of see this one. Again, my last step here is to make this not look like blood. But see my final on Instagram. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Hopefully you learned definitely some layer tips and tricks for speeding up your workflow as well. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful weekend wherever it may find you. Thanks so much.